people retire and they don't have anything to put in place and they die. I mean, that happens a lot. So it's so important to really be conscious of that and to understand that your purpose is just shifting. It's not over. So all these things are changing and it's very hard. So you really have to reframe everything and understand that your purpose is changing. I don't even like the word retirement.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm Jenn Trepeck, your host and health coach, here with you every week for Wellness Without the Weirdness. Now, today's conversation is, and in my mind, we are doubling down on something that I believe is too often overlooked. And I know if you tune in regularly, you think I do a lot of things in that category, or I put a lot of things in that category, but this one probably takes the cake. And I discussed it quite a bit in our episode called The Longevity Equation and in our episode on blue zones. So I'm curious if you can guess what it is, because we're going to focus on purpose and connection and connect it to also our daily wellness habits and routines. So joining us for this is the perfect guest. She is an author, traditional naturopath, and mom of 5 who pursued entrepreneurial business in the world of natural health for the last 14 years while raising her family. With her new book, 60 is a Good Start, A Powerful Body, A Purposeful Life, and a Plan to Make It Happen, she advocates for reimagining life after 60 and inspires women to embrace aging as a time of opportunity, vitality, and purpose. Please help me welcome Allison McCune Davis.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yes, Allison, I'm thrilled that you're here. And I was just saying before, we're going to start with your story as our jumping off point after we tell our members what they're getting this week. So friends, join us in the Happy Healthy Hub. Being a member of the Hub is the next best thing to working with me as your health coach. You get a recipe each week delivered to your inbox, curated articles, additional discounts from me and our partners. You get interview episodes like this one in full video, including behind-the-scenes content, and access to the community board where we can interact, ask and answer questions, and so much more. All of this, by the way, is yours for just $12 a month. If you prepay a year, you get 2 months free. So then it becomes $10 a month. Wild. So your recipe this week is for 1 skillet coffee rubbed steak with spring vegetables. It sounds more challenging than it is to make. I think this one's going to be a crowd pleaser too. And then from our featured guest this week, you're getting chapter 1 of Allison's book. Again, it's called 60 is a Good Start. So it's great. I can't wait for you guys to get this. So to get this recipe and chapter 1 of 60 is a Good Start, plus this episode in full video, access to our community chat where we can ask me anything, go to asaladwithasideofries.com/membership. From there, you click subscribe now, follow the prompts to enter your payment info, create your login to access the hub and all of your benefits. Remember, you're going to asaladwithasideofries.com/membership because really this supports your health and this show so we can keep doing this together. Okay, Allison. So we heard in your bio that you're a naturopath, but even that wasn't the first act of your career,
Right.
if you will. So will you go back a little bit to starting in TV production and then where all this health stuff came to the forefront for you?
Right. Sure. I majored in TV film production in college and then always wanted to be a TV producer. And so that's what I did. Eventually I moved to LA and did it out there. And it was super fun. I was there from like 25 to 35 and just like that was a great time in my life.
Love it.
Yeah, it was fun. The weather was always gorgeous. But while I was out there, so I was raised by a doctor, a surgeon. So, in a pretty medicalized family, but I kind of feel like all of America is that way. So it wasn't that different maybe from anybody else. But anyway, that was the case. And so I was out in LA and I think I was about 32 maybe. And I was single and living in a little cute apartment complex. And there was this woman that lived there, kind of an acquaintance. So I was talking to her one day, and I'd just be transparent. I'd had these reoccurring yeast infections kind of for years, and do the over-the-counter, whatever. It was just kind of a pain. And I was telling her about this, and she said, "Oh, you have to go to my TCM doctor." I'm like, "What is that?" Traditional Chinese medicine doctor. I was like, okay, well, why not? What I'm doing is not really working. So it took me 6 weeks to get in. I finally get there, and he does all this muscle testing for substances, whether environmental or food or whatever, to see, what my body wanted, what it didn't want. Anyway, and I'm like, I have no idea what he's doing here, but okay. He finally says, "I want you to take these herbs for like 3 or 4 months." I don't remember what they were. And this is 30 years ago, 35 years ago. And you need to get off dairy for a year. And I realized I was eating dairy at like every meal. And homogenized, pasteurized, just cereal and milk, cheese and crackers, pasta and cheese. And it just, that's what I was doing. And so I did what he said. And he said, "You may be able to get back on after a year. Some people it's fine, others it's not." And I did. And I've never had one since. Isn't that crazy? But that was sort of my first foray into natural health and herbs and supplements and just all that kind of stuff. So then met my husband. We were both visiting in our hometown. Our parents were friends. We didn't know each other, but we met, fell in love. Like, he lived in DC. I lived in LA. And I was 35 at that time. So we decided to move back. It's time to have some kids, have a family, He's a lawyer. He could do that here. So we moved back to small town America. And I had, my first at 37 and then 40 and then 42, a little later than a lot of people. And about a year later, like 43, my body just kind of went down. And I was getting sick like every 6 weeks. Like a flu sick, and I had these 3 little kids. I mean, I was stay-at-home mom at that point, and I just, I was like, I can't do this. I've got to have energy. I've got to figure this out. So then I went to my first naturopath doctor because I'd already gotten that taste of natural, and I just had really been, this was 8 years after that first trip to that TCM doctor. So I'd definitely been researching and looking into it and all that. So I did, and, my gut health was all off, too much bad, not enough good bacteria, no balance right there. My adrenals were shot, probably from having 3 kids. My thyroid was off, there was just stuff, pretty typical stuff. So I really spent my 40s just kind of healing my body back to health,
I feel like I know so many people who are in that place.
Agree. Well, and then I just spent 40 years not paying attention to it, eating whatever I wanted. Exercise a little here and then not for a long time. And then, just very sporadic, inconsistent. And so that's what I did in my 40s and, learning so much along the way. And basically in my 50s is when I started teaching other women about natural health. And I was also fascinated with longevity. Like the blue zones you said you did a show about them, were just like so fascinating. I love to travel too. So it was just kind of all this fun stuff together. So anyway, in my 50s, I started teaching other women online, in person, just about natural health and that kind of thing. And then I was 59 and I was about to become 60. And I was just like, restless was the key word. I loved what I was doing, like, the side thing. I was raising 5 kids. We adopted a 4th from Russia, a 5th from Ethiopia. So all through my 50s, and I homeschooled for 20 years. So
wow.
Yeah, that was really my career at that point. But as I was approaching 60, I think all those decade birthdays, I remember it happened at 50 and 42. It was just like asking the big questions. What am I doing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? I was pregnant at 40. I was adopting at 50. I thought, yeah, in those cases I was. But 60 was different. Now, it's different ages for different people. I started late, so maybe it's 50 for somebody or even 70, somewhere in there. So I was restless. I was just like, I do love those topics, and I love it's like my favorite discussion to sit with a woman and have these conversations, right? But I needed something had to shift. There's just something, that I needed that whole thing where you wake up in the morning and you are energized by what you're going to do that day, your purpose. Like it's kind of bigger than yourself. It's somehow helping other people. I mean, that's really what purpose kind of comes down to, whether it's a grandchild teaching them things or whether it's a podcast or whatever it is. So I thought, I don't know what that thing is yet, but I think I'm going to have to say yes to some things and really start being super aware of what's coming into my world. And that'll lead me to something. It may not be the thing, but I think it'll lead me to something else. And I know the thing is going to be there. And when I say the thing, I meant what's that thing for my next 5 to 10 years? Like my next decade, my 60s. Like what's that going to look like? So I turned 60 in December. This all started in January. And so I did 3 key things. One, I was just scrolling on Facebook, went to the beach. That's always the great place to think. I'm sitting there looking at the ocean, scrolling Facebook, and I come across, do you know who Jesse Itzler is?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I come across his calendar. Do you know about his calendar?
The big ass calendar. Yeah.
It's awesome. A good calendar I will get. So I got
the big
it.
ass planner. Did you get the big?
I've got that too. Absolutely. It's got right over here. That's even better. I like that better now. But I got the big one that you poster on the wall and then got into his Facebook group. So that's part of it. And he wants you to have a Masogi. Have you delved into his stuff?
No.
So he wants you to do 4 different things with this calendar. But the one big thing is have a Masogi, which is a life-changing event every year. Because, we just get into these routines. And especially the older we get, the more the routines just are digging almost a rut, if you want to say that. And it's when we do new things that time seems to go slower. And it's going very fast at this point, right? Where'd those last 60 years go? Or 40 or whatever it is. So I'm sitting there thinking for a couple of months, what's my Masogi going to be? And I'm looking at his Facebook, just sort of not really writing much because I didn't know what I was going to do. But all these people that were just really living life and, it's very inspiring. So one day this girl pops up and says, I'm going to do 75 hard starting tomorrow. Does anyone want to do it with me? And I had heard of that 4 months prior, and I had listened to the 45-minute podcast by the developer of it, Andy Frisella. And I thought, there's no way I can do that. It's a hard challenge. That's why it's called 75 hard for 75 days. And it's physical, it's mental, it's all this stuff. And I thought, he's this big, muscular, tattooed guy. I'm like, I'm not your target market. Well, when she said that, I thought, wow, wonder if I could do that. And that could be my Masogi. And I just turned 60. I mean, there were some motivating reasons. And so I re-listened to it and I thought, I think I can do that. Walking, yoga, didn't have to be I don't know, whatever he does. So I did. And the only difference in those 4 months that made me change my mind was I love the concept of we are the 5 people we hang out with.
Yes.
Right. So I was in that group for months, reading stuff, hearing people say they're going to do this, they're going to do that, just all this stuff. That was the only thing that changed. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But I did it and I finished it and it was life-changing. And, just such a example of how we develop habits, good habits. So anyway, I also did a women's mastermind during that time, asking the big questions. The people were all ages in that. And then it was that July, I was just doing a breathing meditation thing. And all of a sudden it just hit me like things do, all of a sudden the answer comes. And I thought, I'm going to write a book. Of course, my brain was like, what? No, you're not. It's all been said before. We all have that battle of the brain. And so, but I ended up writing it and it's a 3-year process and came out last year. And so here we are.
Yes. And so part of what I love about your story, and I said this to you before we click record, and what feeds into our focus for today is so much of how you've reinvented yourself, over and over and finding that purpose and connection. So we're going to come to the 3 pillars of your work. Before we do that, I have 2 questions. So I want to start with this one. We have many listeners in your age demo, and we also have many listeners who are closer to my age. in their 40s, some even in their 30s. And so what do you say to those people and why you recommend that they keep listening?
Well, what I wrote about and what we'll talk about is I'm talking to women, like in the book, I'm talking to women that are like, I'm going to say 50 to 70. But the truth of the matter is, everything I say in there is just the recipe for a good life. It doesn't matter how old you are. So that's the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
I mean, the sooner you start, the better it is. I mean, I didn't start exercising regularly until I was 55. Now, I did sporadically, but it was not at all consistent. I would be like, 3, 4, 5 weeks doing great. And then 5 months of just surviving.
Yeah. And I think, it's interesting because more and more too, I'm seeing and hearing from my contemporaries saying, I don't know, this career that I've been building isn't doing it anymore. Or, I need more or something different. Or so I'm seeing people also have these moments. I mean, I don't know. I had that in my 20s when I started a side hustle of this health and wellness thing.
Yeah.
Now
I hear you.
in my 40s, it's like, I've been doing this a long time. But I'm seeing it more and more where people are going, okay, what's next? What's going to be, my thing? So I appreciate that. And then something you just said too about, you didn't start exercising regularly till in your 50s. And this was sort of the second thing that I wanted to talk about is that last time we spoke, you also said, your future is hidden in your daily routine.
Yes, it's my favorite line.
Yes, and I couldn't agree with you more. I'd love to hear you share more on that and what you mean by that for everyone.
Well, it's habits. Your daily routine, you have habits. What are those habits? Because that's going to be your future. So you look at your daily routine, and if you're sedentary, if you're not eating well, if you're, whatever the things are, sleep deprived, just stressed. I mean, people have to ask the question, who do I want to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever you can conceive. If you can only think a year from now, then think a year from now. Who do I want to be a year from now? And whatever is in your daily routine is going to dictate that. That's just what that means, is no doubt about it. And I remember when I first read that, and it was in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. He's the one that says, who do you want to be? And I remember thinking, well, I am who I am. What do you mean, who do I want to, But it's true, because the other thing I remember when I was reading that was, do you know who Chalene Johnson is?
Yes.
Okay. So I've been following her as a business entrepreneur person. Mm-hmm. But before that, and she's still very fit, she was a fitness, she invented PiYo, and for decades, she was a fitness person. I didn't know her then. But anyway, I would follow her stuff, and I would see she and her husband would go on trips. And they'd go to this new city, and they'd go check into their hotel. And the first thing they would do was go check out the gym. And go to the gym, not just look at it. They would find a gym and go to it and work out. And I thought to myself, that is the last thing I would do when I'm traveling, going to a new city. And I just remember back then thinking, I want to have that fitness mindset. That's what I want to have, that fitness that's center. And that was when I didn't have it. But, it was this growing process of, I do want that, because it is critical for longevity.
Yeah. And I think what's so special about this story of saying, first of all, I saw somebody else who was doing something that intrigued me, and how much we can learn from others. And then the other piece is recognizing we're not fixed. And this idea of, wait, somebody would go on vacation, because I'm that way too, but I wasn't always that way as well. So I love it. So I want to go into, take your approach that this idea of our future is hidden in our daily routine, to your 3 pillars, which are body work, brain work, and world work. So everybody hang with us. We're going to come right back for that after we highlight our partner for this episode. Let me ask you something. Have you ever done all the right things, in air quotes, for your health, for your weight, for whatever the goal is, and then still felt confused, frustrated, or like it just shouldn't be this hard. Like you're constantly starting over, waiting for it to finally stick or finally click. And that stuck feeling, we think it's a motivation problem. It's not. And it's certainly not a willpower issue. It's what happens when health is built on rules instead of on understanding. And that's why I wrote Uncomplicating Wellness. Not to tell you what to eat, how to move, or what to eliminate. Rather, to help you understand how to think about wellness for yourself. What matters, what doesn't, and how to stop outsourcing your trust to everyone on the internet. It's science, context, and sanity without the pressure to do everything perfectly. If you want wellness to feel clearer, calmer, and more sustainable, Uncomplicating Wellness is the book for you. Text the word book, 833-801-0500. We'll send you a clickable link with all the details. Okay, Allison, so your book has 3 pillars: body work, brain work, and world work. So let's start with body work. What do you want people to think about here?
Well, and just real quick, those 3 pillars come from a bunch of different longevity studies, from the blue zones to some major Harvard studies with hundreds of thousands of women, to even some cancer studies, longevity in cancer, where it was these lifestyle habits that put them over the edge. And these were radical, like they weren't expected to do well. And they all kind of say the same thing. So I basically am categorizing them in those 3 areas. Body work's the physical, brain work's the mental, emotional, spiritual, world work is purpose and relationships. And then I have the big 5 under each. And ideally, so this leads to the 60-day dare, which the 60 is a good start. The name of my book has a double meaning. It's not just 60. It is the age, 50, 70, 80, whatever. But it's at least 60 days to create a new habit. And this is from Dr. Caroline Leaf, neuroscientist.
I love her.
Yes, she's awesome. And she's just prolific with her books. And so she's looking at the nerve cell in the brain under the microscope, looking at the dendritic spine, where on that, like it's like a tree branch, long-term memory is what it is. That's what the habits are, is forming. And it takes at least 60 days. It could be 8 months. So 60 is a good start, right? 60 days is a good start. So this leads to the 60-day dare. And ideally, you're going to pick something from each category to do for 60 days. So we're building habits. Baby step by baby step. It's got to be that way. It cannot be this big, I'm going to do this. My whole life's going to change. It's got to be little habits. So in body work, it's eat, drink, move, sleep, breathe. So eat. You're going to somehow, and you're going to design this. So pick one. You could pick 2 or 3 if you really want to do that, but you also want to set yourself up for success. A little bit of a stretch, but you don't want to fail either. So in the eat category, which would include supplements, you're going to decide, am I going to eat a certain way? Am I going to eliminate these certain things or add these certain things, or maybe add some supplements that I have a deficiency in? And then drink is water, drinking half your body weight in ounces of water. It's a huge number of ER visits are solved just with hydration. People get dehydrated. They don't think they are, but they do. I like to think of our veins and our organs as supple and wet, and we have to keep them that way. And we're 60% water at least. So we need that water. In the morning is a great time to drink a lot of it. Move, moving your body. So what is that going to be for you? In there, CDC has recommendations of, it's like 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week with 2 strength training sessions. The older we get, what I'm really thinking about is muscle. And they say, muscle is the organ of longevity, especially leg muscles, because we want to be mobile, so we really need to build those. And to build those, we need protein. First 60-day dare mine, I had 30 grams of protein before I ate anything else that day.
Nice.
And that was great. And I'm still doing it. And that was like 6 months ago.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think these are the pillars that we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
And so I appreciate you sharing these because we need to hear it again in different ways. And I appreciate too that you're talking about making something so seemingly small, as I call it.
That's huge.
Yes.
These are huge things. Huge. They make or break who
Yeah.
we are, really. And then move. So, whatever kind of movement, exercise for your body. And then sleeping at least 7 to 9 hours a day. There's lots of ways to fix that. And then deep breathing, which is a big deal. People don't realize it is, but it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's body work.
All right. So I was going to take us to brain work. And we have an episode coming up on brain energy because I think now everybody is exhausted in a lot of ways, physically, but also mentally. Brain work is mental, emotional, spiritual, right? So what are the things under there that we want to focus
So
on?
those big five are write, read, clear, meditate, and create. So write, that's like journaling. You're going to take 10 minutes a day, maybe, however long you want. And maybe you're just going to journal. Maybe you're going to do a dream diary. Maybe you have trauma that is still, not quite dealt with, or maybe not dealt with at all. Certainly therapy is important, but also a start to that, or just going with that or by itself, whatever, is writing down what happened. Like, we have to get the thing out of us, write it on paper. That's just an amazing little step right there that can help in that area. But, some kind of writing, journaling. Then read would be reading something nonfiction that is going to improve us, uplift us in some way. You could do a podcast or a book on Audible book or something like that, but I'd prefer that you read like 10 pages a day. And that's just a wonderful thing to do. So, what is going in our eyes and ears, our senses? Like, is it lifting us up or is it dragging us down? We really have to pay attention to stuff like that. Clear is one of two things. It's either decluttering your house, like a 15-minute session, which I did that on one of our deals and loved it. It was amazing. So some days I was set the timer for 15 minutes and like did my top drawer here or whatever. Other days it went on for an hour or two when I had time. And so that was really great. I mean, a cluttered place, clutters our mind. Or you can detox your house. And so for maybe somebody that's never really thought about that or done that, it's in your bathroom, under your kitchen sink, and in your laundry room. And it's getting rid of all those chemical products. Those are terrible for us. And what goes on our skin goes into our bloodstream. They're just awful. So you want plant-based cleaners, and there's so many out there. You got to think about skincare, makeup, shampoo, all the things. What are you putting on your body? So maybe you're going to do 60 days where you start with the research and you start, what do I need to get rid of and what am I going to replace it with? And, you just 15 minutes a day, you're figuring that out. And then meditate would be prayer, meditation, or affirmations. It's like a 10-minute session. It's the spiritual side of things. And then create is like making something like with your hands. My favorite thing is needlepoint. I got into that about 5 years ago. It's like my reward at the end of every day. I love it. It's creating beautiful things. I give a ton of examples, but there's so many things out there. And that there's I think it's an art association did a study, and 45 minutes of art making lowers cortisol. So, stress is something huge we want to get rid of. And that's a great way to do it.
Love it. All right. And then we get to sort of the meat of this purpose, connection, relationships. And I see this all the time with my clients because I have so many clients who are relatively recently retired. So I'd love to hear you talk about how we explore purpose and relationships, especially when the things, whether it's kids in your house that are now not, or all of these things that used to be that kind of aren't there.
Yeah. This is a huge deal. You hear about it and I see it. People retire and they don't have anything to put in place and they die. I mean, that happens a lot. It happened to my father-in-law, and so it's so important to really be conscious of that and to understand that your purpose is just shifting. It's not over. It's not over when your kids move out and your purpose was being their mother and now they've moved out and now you don't have that. You're less needed, which, so all these things are changing and it's very hard. And so you really have to reframe everything and understand that your purpose is changing. I don't even like the word retirement. I wish people would just say, I'm going to do something different now.
Yes.
I love that a lot because I feel like if we're alive, then we have purpose. When we die, we're done. So in some way or another. So under world work, I have dream, engage, gather, help, and act. Dream is if you don't know your purpose right now, and a lot of people don't, or they're just shifting. They're just like, I need something different. There's 60 questions in the book for you to answer, journal and answer one every day for 60 days. And I really think that's going to lead you to what your purpose could be right now and what you could be doing. It's just asking a lot of probing questions. Looking at things like core values for you, a lot of companies have their 5 core values, but people don't really nail those down. So I think that's huge, and then at this point in life, boy, everything we do needs to fall under whatever those core values are because time is short and it's going fast.
Yeah.
So that's super important to do. It's also another question in there. It's all about alignment, like listing all the things that you kind of do in your life. Maybe it's 10 or 15 sort of main things that you do. Oh, I go to this and then I do, whatever they are. And then give them either I'm fully aligned, I'm semi-aligned, or I'm unaligned. And what I mean by that is how does your body physically feel when you think about that thing? Does it feel expansive and, oh, I love that thing, and yes, I'm never going to not do that thing, and then great, you're fully aligned. If you contract and you're just like, ugh, that just tells you something. Maybe you're doing it out of guilt or who knows what, but that maybe needs to be reassessed.
But it also reminds me of what you were saying before in terms of, right, our future is in our daily habits. So we could say this thing is our core value or important to us or where we want to be in a year or 5 years. And then when we look at our daily tasks, we see the unalignment would be none of these things
are leading to what I want to be in
Exactly.
a year. Yeah, or 5 years. Yes, exactly. So it just takes some intention. If you're in this spot right now of restlessness and shifting and all that, you just have to pay attention to it and do some real soul searching. And that's great, and things open up when you start doing that kind of thing, and signs come along the way. And it's also important how you speak. What are the words you're speaking? Because I really believe that that's going to create the reality that you find yourself in. And then engage would be kind of dealing with that loneliness factor that can be, maybe a spouse has died, kids have moved out, maybe you live alone. Now, if you're an introvert, you probably love that. But you need people still. I'm an introvert. I can be so happy just at home, although I got to have travel in there too. If that's the kind of person you are, or if that's what's going on in your life, you need to make an effort. Now, in these, except for those dream questions, the rest of these, you can rotate through them each week. So maybe you're going to do engage twice a week, like you're going to go to coffee with a girlfriend, right? Or you're going to go to book club, or you're going to call your brother that lives across the country that you never talk to. You're going to make these intentional appointments on your schedule to do these things. And then gather would be gathering. That's the spiritual part. And there's studies that, this is a big part of longevity, is having a spiritual group that you're a part of, a community that you're a part of. So maybe it's go to church every Sunday or whatever. It could be a small group thing, or it could be a one-on-one thing. It could be a spiritual counselor one-on-one. Whatever it is, it's just with other people, and then it's getting together. And then help would be volunteering. Tons of people learn or figure out their purpose through that. And there's so many ideas and so many needs out there. I just like to caution, because I feel like one of the things I'm trying to teach women how to do is say no.
Yeah.
Like when you say yes, that means you're saying no to something else. So are you going to say yes to something that does not fall into your core values and is not going to lead you to that person you want to be in a year or 5 years? Well, don't do that. It's okay. If you say no to something, I promise you there's going to be another person that pops up that's going to fill that spot, because it is in their destiny. It is in their purpose, right? So, but volunteering can be a great thing to, really finding a purpose. And then act is the last one. That's if you do know what you're doing, you're going to do that for a little bit of time. You can determine that each day. So you can rotate between all those for the week.
Yeah, they're so helpful. And I love this idea of the questions to ask ourselves and
Yes.
help us figure this out. And
Yes.
one of the things that you are touching on here, and it ties back to your story that you were sharing in the beginning of Jesse Itzler's Facebook group, and then even the people with 75 Hard, is that you weren't doing any of this alone. So will you speak to kind of this piece of connection, and especially for women having community? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I always, my mind always goes back to like the caveman. So they were out killing for getting the food, and the women were all in the circle around the fire, whatever they were doing, cleaning the food or knitting something. I don't know. But that is who women are. They need community, they relate. That is what we do. We relate, we nurture. It's just in our DNA. That's who we are. And so we need that. I mean, again, it is essential for the longevity piece is to have connection and community and just those people. And you don't need too many, just a couple of good friends is good, that people you can count on, people you can tell all your stuff to, right? It's just necessary. And so if you don't have that, you again make an effort to find that, and you do that, and there's a million ways you can do that. You could do it at church, you could join a book club and do it that way. You could even do it online. I have to tell you a story. This was back, I don't know, I guess it was in my mid-50s. I got into this, it was through Shalene. So her son Brock?
I don't.
Okay, so she has a son. He's, I don't know, late 20s now probably, but he was just, I think maybe in college at this point, and it was when Snapchat just came out. And so he sold this course for parents of everything you wanted to know about Snapchat. It was like $7. So a bunch of people joined, my age, these other, and so we're in this, I think we were in a Facebook group also. And then we each had a Snapchat channel. And so we're doing videos, we're commenting on it. I didn't know any of these people. And so little by little, you start seeing, oh, I like her. I like her. So there were about 5 of us that just ended up kind of liking each other's stuff a lot from all over the country. And we ended up meeting. We got together and went on this girls' weekend. And they are still some of my good friends.
I love that.
Isn't that crazy?
So fun. Yeah, I think
many ways.
I think it's a great place to sort of wrap this up. It's that you just never know. And the best thing, what I'm hearing is that potentially the best thing we could do is just play with it and see what happens and do something new and explore. Awesome. All right. It is time for our rapid fire off-topic questions. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? What's the naughtiest thing you've done for your health this week? Like the salad and fries.
Ooh, I've added some things. I have this habit tracker on my phone, and I keep adding things to it. So maybe it was this. I have this supplement that's a hormone for balancing your hormones. And so I started drinking that, daily. It's with hot water and tastes good. And so I'm thinking that's a good thing.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, what's the habit tracker that you like?
Oh, it's called Tick.
Okay.
Tick.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I really like it. And I think it does a whole lot more than I use it for. I just have the stuff, and I like my big things is slow mornings. So I get a lot of my stuff I need to do, like just for my health and for whatever done. And so if I didn't have those written down and taking them off, I'd forget half of them.
For sure. For sure. All right. If you weren't a former TV producer, a naturopath, and author, what would you do?
Something probably to do, with resorts.
Ooh.
I did for a while, and I need to get back to this, but just a few years ago, I was teaching yoga. I would go to these resorts like in Mexico or
like the retreats.
Bahamas or whatever. Well, there are these all-inclusive places like Secrets and Dreams, those places.
Yep.
It's just all-inclusive, and they bring in, and you get a cheap hotel, and the whole thing you get, and it's very, very cheap. It's like 1/7 of what the price would be, and you just have to go teach a yoga class every day. So going from resort to resort, that would be super fun.
Nice. Your favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise, or you could give us a fiction book.
My favorite book, I loved John Adams. by David McCullough, I think is his name. And they made it into an HBO series, which I made all my kids watch. It's like 7 episodes, and it's the beginning of our country.
I remember that.
It was his whole life, but it's so good. But the book is great.
If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Probably Alzheimer's.
If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
Flying.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Gum chewing.
All right, last one. In your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
Well, gosh, so much is happening in the world today, in the government, with a lot of what they're doing, which is, to me, very exciting. I wasn't sure I'd live to see the day that a lot of these things were being talked about and dealt with. I don't even know. I mean, thinking about how AI is helping people, and you can get on, for instance, ChatGPT. And I'm not saying you should use this for all of your advice, but you can get on there and have a little health section and just ask questions like that you would, normally go ask your doctor, make an appointment. And I'm not saying don't do that, but boy, you can get a lot of information that way, which is pretty interesting. You can ask, could I take this supplement with this medicine? Whatever, just different things like that. So I think that the whole world of natural, alternative, functional health, integrative, for that to come together with the traditional medical, that would be the most beautiful thing in the world. Because, doctors in medical school, they don't get any nutrition teaching at all. Maybe a few are now, but barely any. So those two worlds need to come together. Those doctors, hey, just partner up with one of these functional doctors.
Absolutely. And part of my work in, other spaces. So I appreciate you saying that. And I agree with you. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Allison McCune Davis, for being here. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to find your book.
Yeah. Well, my book is everywhere. It's also on Audible. I'm mostly on Instagram and Facebook. You could connect with me there. And then my website is my full name, AllisonMcCuneDavis.com. And so you can go there and see stuff too.
Perfect. We'll put links to everything. And thank you again for your time and sharing your stories. I think it helps us all to hear it. So thank you.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And friends, on Friday in this week's bite-sized bonus episode, we're talking about salad power smoothies. So this came from one of our Happy Healthy Hub members. They said, I'm curious about drinking salad power smoothies. They're pure veggies. Are they adequate for getting in greens while on the go? So great question. We'll look at salad power smoothies together on Friday in this week's bite-sized bonus episode. So be sure wherever you're listening, click the plus sign or the follow button, and then your app will alert you when it goes live. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. I love hearing from you, your ideas, your takeaways, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Allison McCune Davis, one more time, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Good. And friends, if you are not already, join us in the Happy Healthy Hub. You'll go to asaladwithasideofries.com/membership. This shows your support for this podcast, this community. Above all, though, it supports your health. On top of this week's episode in full video with behind-the-scenes pieces. Your 24/7 Ask Me Anything on the community board. You'll get this week's recipe for 1 skillet coffee-rubbed steak with spring vegetables and chapter 1 of Allison's book, our featured guest, called 60 is a Good Start. So until next week, remember, your future is hidden in your daily routine. So choose wisely and consider body work, brain work, and world work. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.